What the hell happened? How did I do that? Well, hello YouTube and welcome back to Retired for Life. Yes, the siege tower is still standing. We may have a use for it later on once we get farther along in the roof. So today's video is pretty much all about the roof and correcting what could have been a very serious error that I made very early on in this process. So the roof is the scariest part for me. Working out all the angles, making sure everything is straight and lined up. Because if the roof doesn't line up properly, if it doesn't look right, your whole building is just going to look terrible. So we've got an awful lot of work to do. Let's get down to the shop and get to it. So the first job for today is to work on the roof peak board. I've got my boards already cut to length, so I need a 14-foot long board for this. So I've got my roughly 8-inch by 1-inch planks. I've got them cut and ready to go in their length, but what I'm going to do is trim them down just a little bit. Width on this doesn't really matter that much. The idea is that I am using 2x6s for the roof joists, so when they're on an angle, they of course take up more than 6 inches, and I want to have this as wide as possible for as much support as I can get for the 2x6s. So we're going to trim these up and see how they look on one side. I might trim them up a little bit tighter on the other side just to make sure things are nice and straight. Alright guys, so there is the beam for the peak of my roof. So it's 14 feet long and just as straight as an arrow. I'm quite pleased with that. So we've got 14 feet, it's 2 inches thick and 7.5 inches wide. So there should be lots of strength in there. So next we have to figure out how high to the top of this thing we need. So let's do a little bit of work on the floor here and lay out the top of the building and then figure out just how high that peak is going to be. Well, I hope you guys have been enjoying this video, and if you have, don't forget to give it a like, and I'd really love to have you to subscribe to the channel. And if you've got any thoughts, questions, suggestions, don't forget to leave a comment and let me know. I'd love to hear from you. All right, let's get back to the work. All right, so our building up there is a 1/2 inch short of 12 feet wide across the top. I checked both ends, and that's exactly what it is. So we still need to add on to that the thickness of the strapping and the thickness of the boards. So that's giving us an extra 2 inches on either side. So we're 12'4", less 1/2 inch. So I'm going to use tape and lay out the outside edges of the building. So let's get that done, and then we'll figure out the center. All right, that gives us very accurate position for the outside. So I'm 6 foot 1.75 inches for my center. Now I have to project this up. All right, so now I'm thinking that 3 feet will be enough for the peak. Right there. So looking at this, yeah, I'm happy with that. Looking at this going from outside corner to the very top, I'll need a length of just under 7 feet. So that's great. That allows me to use my 8-foot boards, and I can extend them out for a nice overhang on that. So I'm happy with that. That sounds good. I need to lay out the peak beam that goes across here, which is 2 inches wide. So let's get that into place here now. That's got everything all figured out. So I now know how high the roof is going to be. So what I need to do from this point is make up the supports that are going to initially hold the center beam in place. So there's my 4-inch setting. Move this out of the way. Do my first cut. Back to my 4 inches. Flip it over. All right, let's clean that up. All right, there's one side. Let's get the other side done. Okay, so that looks pretty good. And I would say the measurement was just perfect on that. So there is our 4x4 support with the plywood just clamped in place on here. So before we put any screws into it, let's just take it out and see how it fits onto the beam. Oh yeah, that's what I'm talking about. That looks very good. So we're just going to put a couple of screws in this for now. Okay, now for the fun part. Get the beam in here and up in place. All right, let's see what we can do here. Hopefully without breaking anything, including my neck. Well, there we are. So let's go in, take a break, get a bite to eat, and we'll see you in the morning. All right, guys, so we've got our roof peak beam in place now, but I've been held up by two things. I know it's not showing up well on the camera right now, but it smells like I'm standing in the middle of a campfire. So yesterday, the haze was really heavy. It was very, very smoky. This is from all the forest fires that are not really close to me, but not that far away either. We've got a bunch of forest fires in Quebec that are really sending a lot of smoke here because of weather conditions right now. And there's also one that's not that far away from me in a provincial park. So we kind of keep our fingers crossed and hope things are going to be okay there. And I really feel sorry for the people in those areas and for the hard work of the firefighters out there trying to deal with this, and the wind that they've got too. The conditions must be just about impossible to deal with. So the other thing that I'm dealing with is I wanted to get the wrap on here so I could actually start putting the siding on. But I went to my local home hardware and they don't have the wrap that I want left. So I decided I'm just going to give it a few days. They have more coming in a couple of days. So we're going to go on to other things. Now, because I've got my roof peak beam up here in place, temporarily in place, it's going to allow me to figure out just what my trusses need to look like. So I'm going to go back down into the shop where we've still got our floor layout there for the roof, and take an 8-foot 2x6, and we're going to lay out all the angles and the bird's mouth and that kind of thing on that first one, and bring it up here and fit it and see whether we've got it right or not. And if we've got it right, that means I can use the first one as a pattern and just cut all of them and have them all there and ready to go. All right. I'll watch for hornets in here. Well, they look pretty safe. And of course my 2x6s are right at the back. Okay, there's my material with a few extra. Well, is that not just a beautiful thing? Look at that lumber. Nice, straight, flat. Yeah. All right, there's the bird's mouth. I'm just going to touch that up a little bit with my chisel. I just want to make sure that it is going to sit flat in here like we expect it to. Okay. Before we cut the second one, just for the heck of it, let's take this up there and see how it fits. So if I've got this right, this back edge here of the bird's mouth should stick clear by about 2 inches on the outside of this of the top of the wall here. That's to make room, as I said earlier, that's to make room for the strapping and the siding that goes on. So hopefully when it drops down into that bird's mouth, it should line up quite nicely with that. Yeah, and I'm not. So the bird's mouth looks good, but I'm definitely off there. So what did I do wrong? That's about the right spot. I got a feeling I've got the height wrong here. All right, so I just double checked my measurement down there on my lofting floor, and I am 3 feet. So, did I make a mistake here? I'm low. by almost 2 inches. What the hell happened? How did I do that? So somehow I've ended up with this beam being low. I cut it off incorrectly. Yeah, I need a 2-inch spacer in there. Well, nice thing about that is it's quite doable. Oh, that's annoying. Okay, guys, we got our corrected height. Just got this up in place. Let's see how things line up now. Look at that. That's perfect there. We got our 2-inch gap on the outside there. I'm really happy about that. This is going to be perfect. So we have our layout. We know what we need now for our trusses. Well, we've made good progress on the roof. I've got my first joist here laid out and cut and test fitted. After dealing with the mistake, everything looks good. So we should be ready to go. So the next step of this is actually going to be putting on the east and west walls. That will allow me to have the full building width, and then I can start installing the trusses. So I hope you guys found today's video interesting, or at the very least entertaining. And as I said earlier, if you have any thoughts, any questions, any suggestions, I'd love to hear from you. And if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up. And I'd really like to have you subscribe to the channel. That would really help a lot. All right, guys, thanks very much for watching, and we'll see you out on the trails the next time.